Welcome to the Mastering the Mind podcast. Today we welcome our 15th guest to the podcast. His name is Martyn Rooney. Martyn is an English sprinter who specializes in the 400-meter event and has competed in various European and World Championships throughout his career. Martyn reached the 400-meter final at the 2008 Beijing Olympics and won bronze at the 4x400-meter event. Martyn went on to compete at the London 2012 and Rio Olympics.
Some of Martyn's major achievements include winning gold at the 2014 European Championships in the 400 metres and 4x400 metre events, winning silver at the 2010 and 2018 European Championships, and winning silver at the 2009 and as well as bronze at the 2015 and 2017 at World Championships in 4x400 metres events. Outside of sport, Martyn is the co-host of a sports podcast called That Greaves and Rooney Sports Podcast with Paralympian Dan Greaves. So let's welcome Martyn to the podcast.
Can you hear us?
I can. How's it going, gents?
Going good, going good. How about yourself?
All good. Sweating, but not too bad.
I swear, it's the temperature's bumped up in the last couple of hours because it wasn't that bad this morning, but I've just been recording like other stuff for projects and things, and I'm sweating now, like bad.
Yeah,
so hot.
Hence the vest. I did an interview earlier, and I was in like a polo thing, and I was just dripping with sweat, and I was like, "It's just looks rub. I better look like sweaty all on my head and everything." I was like, "Sod it, who cares? Just carry on."
What's it like in Spain, John?
Same old. A lot of wind, like I keep saying every time, but I feel like that's the key, like.
The key is that air conditioning unit behind your head.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, yeah, definitely that helps. But yeah, I heard that in the UK it's just too hot. It's not even nice.
It's okay. It's just because our houses aren't built for it, are they? They're just built to be insulated and keep warm. And it's just hot.
We were due thunderstorms at the end of the week, but I think that's turned into like people are saying there's going to be another like prolonged heat wave and things like that. So
yeah, maybe outside it's all gone really grey here, so like
right.
Assuming it's going to come down soon.
The thing is, when it starts thunderstorming and raining and it's still hot, it's such horrible weather because it's all sticky and
humid.
It's fun. It's fun. It's for the kids as well. For my kids, they just run outside naked, literally go out in the garden and like they soak it up. It's good fun, to be fair.
Yeah. Have you been busy today then?
A fair bit with the college, and I did a little interview for BBC East Midlands today, and then that's it really. It's kind
you got the big time now, mastering the podcast.
This is the highlight of my day.
Yeah. So here we go. So something we like to do when we get a guest on is for them to take us through what it was like growing up. If you were to take us through like a chronological sort of timeline of your life. And sort of your athletics career, what would that look like?
That's obviously a long time ago now. I'm 34, so I grew up in Croydon in South London. I've got a great family. Like my parents, very supportive people, very driven people, work very hard. I've got an older sister and two younger brothers, and in our own way, we all excelled at something. And I think my parents were the kind of the key to that. Like they weren't pushy parents, but they just led by example. My dad was he'd work all the hours he could, and my mum kind of supported us and put us through everything that she could do. So they just worked very hard, and I think that was always the example I had from a young age. It was always like, if you want something, like we lived in not the nicest neighbourhood, but we had a lovely house. You know, we lived in a spacious-ish kind of house we had a good garden and things like that. So and we always had like clean clothes, stuff like that. We had food on the table, clean clothes. I went to school with kids who literally had one pair of shoes, and if they played football or whatever, they had to take their shoes off because their parents would go mad at them for destroying their shoes. So It was I was very fortunate. I understood how fortunate I was from a young age as well. So I think that's kind of always something that I'm going to try. It's going to be harder for my kids. I think we live in Loughborough. It's a nice part of the world. Parents are at home a lot because they're athletes, it's just a different world here. Like crime rate's so much lower here, and you're generally just safe. I think down there I kind of learned to, I suppose, be streetwise and aware of your surroundings at all times.
Yeah. No, I was sort of similar. So I'm from Leicester as well.
Okay.
But I grew up in the nicer part of a rough area. But my friends, like you said at school, they all lived in probably the rougher area, and I always used to hang around there. And sort of the work ethic that my dad put into me is something that, yeah, I feel, obviously he was a manual labour. He would take me along with him to work, and I feel like I've translated that into other aspects of my life. So the fact that you're conscious of that, and the fact that you're trying to install it in your kids is definitely such an important thing.
Yeah, I think the labouring's tough, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I still do it now alongside my studies. I run a gardening business. My dad did a gardening company, and then in my first year of uni, so about 5 years ago, he fell sort of ill, and he couldn't do it anymore. So he passed it down to me. Yeah. It's seasonal work, so I do it alongside my studies. So March to October, but I'm studying during the winter, so it works sort of perfect. You earn your money during summer, and then it funds you for winter. So
yeah.
But no,
I love
that
fun lifestyle in the winter.
Yeah, it sort of humbles you a little bit. I mean,
100%.
Being at Loughborough Uni, me and John realised this. We did like a networking thing where we had to present a poster, and we realised that everyone on our course is sort of like Olympians or elite athletes, and then there's me who's getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go and graft. It's like, yeah.
No, I think athletics. So I laboured with my dad for a couple of from probably about 14, 15 years old, and we just did it as like on the weekends, or when I remember finishing my GCSEs, I remember labouring, and I literally did it every day of the week, 6 days a week for the whole summer. And I was like, do I really want to do this? I bet I could get good at something. And that was kind of for me like the kind of turning point, I suppose. And right, if you don't want to be on a building site all the time, then this is your future's got to change.
100%. That's how I think of it as well. My dad used to have a couple of my mates like work for us as well, and I remember one of my mates, he come in to do a day, and after the day completed, he went, "Thanks so much, Neil, for bringing me in, because I do not want to do this for the rest of my life."
That's it.
Yeah,
it's huge.
So how did you end up in athletics, and would you say was it that main purpose, like not wanting to tag along with your dad, or?
I think I always did sport. I went to a school where it was a big rugby school, and I was a beanpole, right? Super skinny kid, but I was fast, and I enjoyed the physical part of rugby. But I wasn't from that background where I didn't go to the primary school that played it. I literally joined it in year 7 and got beaten up and brawled and all those kind of things, but I loved it. I loved that whole thing. But with athletics, I always found it like it just suited me. It suited my mentality of I'm a terrible loser, and I think in athletics it's all about how you perform. Whereas in like rugby or football, whatever it was always like, well, if someone else makes a mistake, I couldn't handle it. I used to unleash on them. I was a terrible teammate, and it kind of like it's like completely opposite to who I am now as a teammate. Like I was hard on my team. I'm hard on the guys in my team now, but I'm not. I was hard in my team. I'm not in the team anymore.
Oh no!
But it's as a kid, like playing rugby and other team sports like football and cricket or whatever. It was always like I couldn't handle losing, and athletics was the one that kind of it was down to me. If I performed well, there's a network of people behind me. But so athletics was the one that kind of the sport that for me that I really could just be in control of my own destiny, I suppose. And like not being on a building site was something that was kind of a nice kind of like it was long days, like you said, you're leaving at 5, 6 in the morning and you're working, you get home at like 6 o'clock at night, you're dirty, tired, whatever. And I was like there's good money in it and it's a great industry if you're in it and it's what you want to do, but it wasn't something I felt like maybe it was just not my destiny or whatever.
Yeah, no, for sure. Some people just absolutely have the bug for something like that. I think it's quite nice working outdoors sometimes, like especially during like this weather where I'm out mowing lawns and things like that. But you originally was compete or training 800 meters and 1500, wasn't you? And then you sort of made the transition to 400. When did you realize you were so good at 400 meters?
I started off with cross country, middle distance running, but I also like for my club I did everything, whatever they asked me to do. If it was pole vault, I couldn't bend the pole, but I tried, and I always did the relays. I was always in the 4x1. I'd be doing like the 1500 meters, and then at the end of the meet, I'd be doing the 4x1 with the other guys, and I'd be as good as them. So it wasn't like I was a bad sprinter. And I kind of just fell upon like the 400 one year. I was just like, you know what, let's just have a go at it. Did it for my club, and within like 2 or 3 races, I was like quite high ranked in the country. I think probably by my 3rd race, I was British #1, and I was like, well, I'm 16 years old, so under 20 age group. I've got a couple of years in this age group, and I'm like, British #1. This is kind of easy, like. So I kind of obviously at that age where it is, you're enjoying it and you're running well and you're winning all the time. It's kind of like, well, I'm going to stick with this. And it was kind of. I probably felt like once for a long time in my career I was going to move back up to 800, but I didn't really achieve what I wanted in the 400, so I wasn't ready to leave it. And the time kind of passed when I could have probably peaked in the 800. So.
Okay, we sort of had a similar finding with Emily Borthwick, and she was doing a different event, and then suddenly did high jump, and she found out she was absolutely unreal at it, and she found it quite easy. And now obviously she's going to Tokyo now, so. Fair play.
Yeah, she's got a great mentality for it. I think she enjoys, like, it's something that she's obviously taken to pretty well. Obviously, she's going to the Olympics, and it's kind of how she's quite refreshing to see just someone who's just kind of come in a bit raw and succeeded.
And even her like physiologically, like she's not at all the same as her competitors. So I really resonate with the point there, saying that it's refreshing to see like. She's quite shorter, so it's exciting to see it. I wish her all the best. She's definitely not your 6'5" Blanka Vasic. She was like a beanpole and basically fell over the top of the bar. You can see she is actually high jumping, and it's I think it'll be a great experience for her in Tokyo. I think she might rise to the occasion and surprise a lot of people.
She seems to be setting PB after PB at the moment.
Yeah.
No, popping off. So during that period where you were kind of like, okay, this is easy for me, do you feel like you kind of established yourself as, as an athlete then? Or do you feel like, okay, now it's time to do the real work and try and be the best?
I don't think I really realized like how hard it was to be an athlete until I was probably like 27, to be honest. Like I've been going a long time, and I thought what I was doing was world class for a long time. And then I joined another group when my eyes were opened very quickly. I trained at 27, I joined a coach called Rainer Ryder, and 26, 27, anyway. And he had a triple jumper in his group who happened to be like world Olympic champion or whatever, a guy called Christian Taylor. And he just took me to school on these sessions, some 350s that we were doing. Like, so it should be like my bread and butter, should be something that I'd absolutely destroy him.
Yeah.
And this triple jumper takes me out. And the first 10 meters, he's just gone past me. I'm like, what are you doing, you idiot? And then it's like, he just keeps going. And I was like, oh. And it just made me realize that, okay, look, what I thought was world class isn't world class. And it brought the best out of me. And it was something that I thrived upon. Being the worst person in the group is something I learned to love and adapted to, and definitely got the best results out of me.
Yeah. Something we was going to touch on. So obviously you realized you was good at 27. So how old were you when you went to your first Olympics in 2008, and how did it feel when you was going to compete there?
So I was 21 years old, and I was training well. I'd had a really good winter. I was in a group of very good athletes as well. Maybe not at the same level as our Olympic champions, but I was in a good group of guys, and we worked really well together, and things just clicked. I made a massive progress in the 400. I went from 45.3. I went into the games unbeaten, and I think at the games around 44.60. But at that stage, I was just loving it. I was just loving life. Like, my dream as a kid when I started doing athletics was like, I want to go to the Olympics, and I was living my dream at 21 years old, and I was in a position where, when you've got momentum in anything, life is easy. Like everything was happening for me. Everything was clicking. I was winning races everywhere I went. I was making good money. I was in a position where it's the first time I've really had money in my pocket. And I was just enjoying what I was doing. I was traveling around the world. People like, I'd go to races in like Monaco and win in Monaco and meet the prince and stuff. And it was like, this is cool. This is a different world. So it was an amazing experience, and to go to Beijing, I think the national stadium in Beijing is I've described it on a podcast before. Like it gives you a bit of a semi when you see it, if that makes sense. Like it's beautiful. Like it's stunning. Yeah,
you're gonna have to go.
It's the bird's nest. So it's like I just got so excited about being at the warm-up track, and you're looking at this awe-inspiring structure, and you're like, oh wow, this is it. This is your adrenaline's pumping, and it was just built for performance. You know, it was built like you go there, and without going too much innuendos, but it was there to do the job. You know, and yeah, it was a really fun experience.
We were probably like quite young when we actually watched that on TV. I remember watching it in like my kitchen and like the opening ceremony, and it was from what I remembered, it was an impressive stadium, but I don't remember it that well.
We was like 10 years old then, so
yeah. That's weird to think of that.
It's just a long time ago, and as a games, like you can't really ask for much more. Like they invested, I think it was like $21 billion back in 2000, like so 2008 compared to today's money, that's a huge amount of money. But also like slave labor and everything, you know, it wasn't, human rights isn't really a thing in China, is it? So it was the best constructed games that could ever be.
Okay.
What was it like? So obviously your first games, I mean, we've talked about this quite a lot. My experiences with pressure and not being able to handle it, but at such a bad level. So obviously just Sunday League at football and cup finals. But how could you cope with the pressure of competing at your first Olympics in front of those crowds? What was that like? And did you implement any sort of strategies to help you cope? Or how did you cope yourself?
I think pressure is relative, isn't it? Like I was probably as nervous at the Olympic final as I was on my driving test, you know? Like it's all relative to what it means to you. Like if it means the world to you, then it's the way I learned later on was that pressure is a privilege. You're lucky to have that pressure on your shoulders. At that stage, I was just rolling with it. I was puking my guts up before every race because I was so nervous. But I saw that as a thing of like, your body's ready. This is like, this is your final moments before you compete. Your body's clearing out its system, and everything is about performance now. And that's how I handled that situation then. It was just like every race I was there to go and win it, and every race I was there to just soak up the atmosphere, soak up the feeling of running for my country in an Olympic Games. So it just felt, I'd been to world champs, I'd been to 2 world champs already, but at that stage, and this just felt different. It felt like a step above, and it felt like this is where I wanted to be. This is the pinnacle of our sport, and I wanted to thrive in that situation.
Being quite young, did you use those Olympics to kind of observe your competitors and maybe like see what they're doing, how they prepare for competition, and use that for like your later Olympics? Did you kind of use that as a learning opportunity?
I think I did, but I felt like at 21, you feel like, oh, I've got a long career ahead of me. It's fine. Yeah. Whatever happens. It's a learning curve, which is, I hate the term learning curve. So many athletes use it as an excuse, and I definitely did at some stage. I was like, oh, it's just part of the learning curve. Whereas rather, it's like these opportunities don't come around all the time. Making an Olympic final at 21 years old, it happens to lots of athletes, and it's up to the athlete to take advantage of that. And the final, I came 6th, I think, 5th or 6th, and like 3rd place was within an arm's reach. Like it's not far, so that's an opportunity missed, really. Like, and I only realised that after I crossed the line. I was like, damn, like literally, like I'm an arm away from an Olympic medal, and it really did. It was a tough moment to have. But I did learn about how to be around at a championship. So I definitely learned that going with the moment, enjoying the moment, being in it, rather than stressing about it was the best way for me to perform. I had a training partner at the time, an Irish guy called David Gillick, who's a fantastic athlete, who'd won European indoor medals beforehand. Well, he won the championships beforehand. But the Olympics was huge, and he bottled it. He got to he basically had 3 weeks in the pre-camp where he was just nervous energy the whole time, and he didn't have the best games where like he should have at least made semi-final. He got knocked out in the heats because he was just so tense. So I definitely learned how to be like what would suit me as an athlete. It's being relaxed and, like I said, living in the moment, enjoying the moment for what it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think
go on.
In those feelings of like when you were talking about those feelings of nervousness before, and the fact that you used that as a positive, and the fact that it was like, oh, my body's ready now. Having that positive mindset is definitely key to sort of succeed in your sport, because like you said, that guy, those feelings of nervousness can really hinder your performance. That's sort of why I got into psychology. The difference between being good and great. You might be a great sprinter, but if you can't perform on the day, like you're not gonna succeed. So,
and it's all about, at the end of the day, you want to look back on your career and have as many medals as possible. So if you missed out on those medals, those are the ones you actually think about more than the ones you won. So definitely handling pressure. And there's some fantastic athletes out there. You watch them and how they handle situations. Christian Taylor was the one, like for me, watching him later on. So in 2015, win, I think it was maybe second or third world champs by then. He's won loads. But like last round, best round, like he came out and he jumped just off the Jonathan Edwards world record, and the pressure had been on him. But he was like, this is what I'm here for. This is my moment. This is it. And he's a very placid, nice person. And the aggression on this man's face when he was on the runway was unreal. Like you goosebumps thinking about it. Like it was that's the level. There's levels to this thing, and you see it in every sport. You see Federer or Nadal, or you see Ronaldo or people like that. Just how they handle the pressure and perform. It was obviously you're a sports psych student. You talk about the boys when they're going up for their penalty for England and stuff. Like you see just the persona and the confidence that they exuded or didn't. It was so obvious they were going to miss penalties to me. Like,
when Saka stepped up, I knew before he took it that, especially looking at someone like Donnarumma, like it was such a daunting task for. Like we recently spoke with the coach, and he was saying that obviously the way they selected the penalties was during training, whoever had the highest success rate took the penalties. But I think personally, I feel like a lot more goes into it than just that. Yeah. It's a justified way to pick your penalty takers, and if you're going to do it that way, you might as well stick by the book. But the pressure of the moment to put a 19-year-old on the fifth pen who's not really took a professional penalty before, I think you've got to have those moments beforehand to be able to handle it in that, especially with a nation on your back. Someone I feel who is so good at handling pressure in track and field is Usain Bolt. The way he just carries himself around, it must be so, I don't know, not daunting, but you know what I mean, about his competitors looking at him, just really seeking in that event. It must be,
There's people who handle it really well. At the end of the day, like with you saying, like he's an exceptional athlete, and the way I only from the outside really he handled pressure was he just enjoyed it. Like he seemed to be the person I learned from, like enjoying the moment. But then when it got behind the line, like literally as soon as he started setting up his blocks, he was a different animal. And there's people who just don't have the leg speed, but who've matched him in a race. There's a British guy called James Desalu, who's a 9:91 sprinter at peak. And I remember him in London 2012, and he was in the heat with Bolt. And obviously, even though you're the British guy, everyone's still looking at Bolt. But for 60 meters, this guy's like, well, I've got Bolt, I've got him in my back. And Bolt's looking across at him, going, like chasing him down, running, like, I've got to run a lot quicker now. And so there is guys who could match him mentally, but physically, like, he's just a different level. Like, he was an unreal beast and a pleasure to have seen run. And I think we're all lucky as sports fans just to have seen the guy move.
He sort of combines the two of being not only be able to perform under pressure, but also being that absolute freak of nature.
He must have had so much pressure going into like the next Olympic Games every time. So 2012, 2016, like everyone was expecting him to win. So I feel like that adds even more pressure, So one,
And also the pressure to perform, like not like as an athlete, but everyone expects him to be this happy, bubbly guy, and like he is, every movement was watched. I remember going to meets where he had to have sections of the dining area like sealed off for him, just because he was like, I can't, let me just have 20 minutes to myself, or not someone else, some VIP coming up ask for a ticket, for a photograph or an autograph, just let me chill out for a bit. So that added stress and pressure, like how he handled that. He held a sport. He represented a nation. He was, he was up there. Like, you think about how much pressure he's probably like in a, like almost like a president kind of level, you know, like Barack Obama kind of level. Like the things that he does has a massive influence not only on his sport but on the global face of the sport and his country. So yeah, huge amounts of pressure for him.
You know, at the Olympics, do you mingle with like the other athletes from the other nations? Like, are you allowed? Is it, yeah?
Previously, obviously, this game to be very secluded. They can't even sit at the same table without having glass in between them, which kind of looks a bit rubbish because they go back to their rooms and they're in the same room together. But anyway, it's normally, you kind of, Beijing was a really, like, I'd been to a Commonwealth Games in Melbourne at 18 years old, and it's a similar situation, maybe not at such a grand scale, but you go into your food hall and just every athlete from every sport's in there. I remember in Beijing, I remember seeing some of the Chinese basketball players, so Yao Ming, massive, huge guy. I remember being in the queue, huge guy, but I remember being in the queue for McDonald's at the end of the game. So we used to have McDonald's in the village. And he's there, and then Tom Daly's next to him.
Oh wow!
And it's literally like, you're taking the piss, guys. Like, you couldn't have not set this up better. And you see like Nadal walking around. Nadal loves it. Nadal is someone that, first of all, I didn't realize how big he is. He's about 6'4", I think 6'3".
Jeez.
So when you see him play, you don't think he's a tall guy. But I was like almost eye level with him. But he just walks around the village like normal. Like, he's getting his food, he's cool, he's chilled. If people want a picture, he has a picture. Well, my first games in 08, Ronaldinho was in the village, and it was
my God.
Yeah, like peak Ronaldinho as well, 08, like he was amazing. But you couldn't get anywhere near him. Basically, the whole rest of their team was just huddled around him, and they walked like, you know, like a school of fish. They were literally like, that's how they went through the village. So like someone at the front was directing the flow, and everybody just huddled around. And so it was pretty amazing to see those people there. I think the US basketball team came in. They only come in and leave. They don't hang about. They kind of like LeBron James, those guys. To be honest, it must be the same for like what Bolt has for them. Like, Bolt doesn't really come out when he's in the Olympic Village. He might be there for 1 or 2 days, but not when he's in competition mode, because he's never going to get on with his day. He's always going to have loads of people coming up to him and. But it's an amazing thing, and I think it's a shame for some of the athletes now that go into their first games, they won't have that experience. They won't be able to just wander up and see Novak Djokovic hanging around. I think he's there this time. So
What was all this talk about possibly Tokyo being cancelled? I saw some tweets going on about it. What's the deal with that?
I think it's just ongoing, isn't it? I think the risk, obviously the rates there are very low compared to here. I think they had like 700 new cases one of the days compared to where we get like a couple of thousand. But they obviously see that as a state of emergency. They don't want coronavirus to be brought in. And I don't think that's been handled well. Like, I feel like the British Olympic Association has done a fantastic job of PCR tests, lateral flows, all that. Like, they have like this strict regime that they have to do before they go away. Athletes weren't allowed to travel. So like there was an age group championship that some people were planning to go to, but they got selected for the Olympics, and then they're like, I can't go, even though it would have been a great opportunity for them to develop and win the championships. It's like, no, you can't go because you go to the Olympics. But then you get to the airport and they just stick you on a commercial flight, and they don't give you a designated area, and it's kind of there's a group of athletes who had to isolate because they were pinged by somebody else who was on the flight who's failed a COVID test. So it's nearly right. I think they've done a really good job in some parts, but just 1 or 2 little things they should have done better. Like, literally everyone fly out at the same time on 1 or 2 designated flights, and then no one else is allowed on that plane. It's not as if they haven't got lots of flights going anyway, but at least from a Japanese point of view as well, then people are like, they're controlling as much of the controllables and they're reducing the risk. and then it satisfies a lot of the unrest. And it still could be cancelled at any time. I think I think it will take a big amount of cases, but until at the moment, it looks like it's definitely going ahead.
There was a lot of pings in the UK recently. A lot of people have been deleting the app because they just keep getting pinged and then having to isolate, and it affects their job. And a lot of the time they come back negative. So it's a weird time. Everything's open now in the UK. I went to the gym this morning trying to book a slot on my app, and then I rang because it won't let me. And turns out you could just turn up now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Progression. Yeah. Talking
What's it
about
like in Spain? Sorry.
In Spain, it's getting worse. Like they're looking to put curfews on now. I think there's one where I am now at 1 o'clock it's fine, 1 o'clock in the morning, so it's not too bad. But I'm originally from Belgium, so over there it's also not as good. But hopefully it'll be better.
Have you had both your jobs?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. I've only got one at the moment.
I might just turn up now.
Yeah, well, I had it like about 2 weeks ago, so I think I've got to wait. And I think it's minimum 4 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I had mine done Leicester General maybe about 12 weeks ago now, and then it was like basically just after I raced in Gateshead, I got it the next day. I booked it, but it's very easy now. So
I'm going to get looking at it done.
So back to the Olympics. So speed up to London 2012.
Yep.
So obviously it's the home Olympics. You know what question I'm going to ask you now. Did you kind of feel extra pressure, competing in front of the home crowd, or did you kind of thrive thanks to that?
I said about my training partner for 3 weeks, he was just nervous energy. We kind of had that for about 5 years. Literally, so we kind of had it at the back of your head going into Beijing. We already knew the next Olympics was in London, so it was already like there, and it just kept on getting bigger and bigger. And like we have championships on the way. You have 2 world champs, you have a European champs, Commonwealth Games, but it's always still about London 2012, and nothing else really is the most from our sponsorship, funding, media, whatever. It was all about London 2012. Were you ready? So it was different. It was a completely different environment. To 2008, where everything was kind of just felt like for me it was just like 1 or 2 years really, whereas this was like a long building. And going to the games, I really enjoyed my coach had basically for the year from like October onwards, he put me in an altitude tent, so I had to sleep in this altitude tent, which meant for it to be worthwhile you had to do 12 hours a day or 12 hours a night. Otherwise you were just wasting your time anyway. So it basically kept me from doing any media. I couldn't go down to London to do any sponsorship stuff. It kind of cost me a bit of money in the end. Bloody coach. But it was there. He was doing it for my own good. He was like, look, you're going to get too much attention. I did a bit of a media block out as well, and they couldn't get their head around it. I was like, well, no, I want to be ready. I want to be ready for the games. And it kind of worked. Like I started my season, I think my first race was average. My second race, I went to world number 1. I beat previous Olympic champion. I was like, oh, this is working. It justified it all, I felt great. And then I picked up a bit of a hip injury. I tore my labrum at the end of May. So I came back from the States. I'd raced in Doha, ran well there, came like 3rd or 4th there in a good time. And then I raced in Hengelo in Holland, and I tore my labrum there. And it was like literally every step I took was just in pain. So kind of go from being at the top of the world to going to home games and just not enjoying it. I enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed going to the games, but not being as when 2008, everything was kind of flowing. I was just running. I could win every race. It was brilliant. To go into a games where you're like, I'm in pain. This is not fun. This is a different game. And then you go there and the pressure is different. I walked out in my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. She was a pole vaulter. So she made the games. It was her second games. And I walk out with her heats on at the same time as my heats. So I walk out into the stadium, it's beautiful sunshine. And they announce Kate Dennison to the crowd, like she's on the runway. And the crowd goes, full stadium just screaming at her. And I was like, she'd already jumped already, so she was probably used to it. But I hadn't heard it, and I hadn't been in the stadium and felt it. And I was bawling my eyes out. I had sunglasses on, everything, but I was crying. I was like, what am I doing? I'll get goosebumps like now here. Like that noise, it just stays with you forever. And we had to walk 100 meters down the home straight, and there was always people like shouting at me and going. I was like, I can't look at you. I can't acknowledge that you're there. And it was a completely different experience to what I'd had in any previous champs, where I'd been in the MCG, I'd been in Beijing and Bird's Nest, I'd been to World Champs, Commonwealth, whatever. And it was I had people screaming at me. I loved it. I was like, this is amazing. But when you went to London, it was like, oh my God, like it's different level. I qualified for my heat. Kevin Bourlet, Belgian 400 meter runner, beat me in my heat. But he thrived on it. He was like, this is the greatest thing ever, because it wasn't for him. No one shouted for him, but he was just getting the whole energy thing. And so I qualified for the semi-final. And when I came out of the semi-final, I was ready for it. I was like, yeah, let's go. I was pumped. I was so excited. I was like, everyone was shouting. I was like, yeah, come on, take it all in, enjoying the moment. Really thriving. And I, like the pain sides of it, feel like it was going away. You know, like everything was just like, it was positive in a good place. I got a decent semi-final. It's quite, I can make the final from here. I should have really come first or second in my semi-final, but got behind the blocks. Stadium goes silent, and I hear one guy go, Rooney. I hear about 20 guys start, Rooney, and then literally like one section of the stadium does it. Oh man,
I would have been there doing that.
The whole stadium did it. I shat myself. There's no other way of describing it. Literally, they say like 5p, 50p, like my arsehole literally went tight as anything. All I could think about was don't fall start. And that was all I could think about. My race was gone. My race, the way, all that relaxation, confidence, everything just disappeared. And there was no way, like I didn't run terribly. I probably ran about the same time as I did the day before. But it was a semi-final that was easy to qualify from, and I messed it up. But the noise for 350 meters of that race was incredible. But the silence for the last 50 meters, it was the worst feeling. Like I was coming down the home straight, and I knew people knew I wasn't going to get in the top two, and they could see it. I think I was fourth or fifth, and I was like, I could feel the noise drop. I was like, oh shit, it was tough.
I was going to ask you about that if you ever had the Rooney chance, because I'm a big Man U fan as well, so okay. I would have been chanting that.
No, it was amazing, and the thing was, in hindsight, I wish I'd have spoken to Wayne Rooney. I wish I'd have just gone to a match at Old Trafford, and like knowing how it was going to, like knowing that it could happen, and being just more prepared for it, like. Yeah. Just to literally have a conversation with the guy, like, how do you handle it? And he probably just said, I don't notice it anymore or whatever. But like, yeah, when it did hit me, it was a weird feeling.
It's hard because you can't really prepare for those moments because you've obviously never been in it. I talk about if I've ever played in finals, my lack of experience in those moments, I really struggled with because I didn't know how to cope with it. It was a sort of a new feeling to me. So yeah, I could definitely see how that would have affected you, especially the crowd. I imagine that was just
it was amazing thing to have, like to look back on and be like, I got a picture of the night where I'm coming out of the blocks and you can see it's like a full stadium and like people. So I think at first, like it was kind of like people just didn't know what was going on, and as soon as they worked out what it was, they were like, and my coach was in the stadium. And he said the same. He was like, he couldn't handle it. It wasn't even for him, and he couldn't handle it. So it was an amazing thing, and it's happened since, and I've loved it. Yeah, like I've absolutely loved it. As soon as it happened, I'm like, yeah, come on, a bit louder, let's go.
Do you know that media block out that you talked about? So you thought that really helped you? Because I see other competitors, like I know that Anthony Joshua, when he lost that Andy Ruiz fight, he sort of did the same thing, especially during camp. He won't be on social media at all, and that sort of helps him prepare, so he's fully focused. Do you think that helped you prepare?
I think it was just I didn't want people blowing smoke up my ass. I think you can believe your own hype very quickly. You can read some good articles about you or do some interviews, and you start thinking you've made it. And that was for me the most important thing. Like I'd had a good relationship with the media. They'd always been pretty supportive. Like one or two times they told me off, but like I deserved it. So I had a good relationship, and I felt like they respected me enough to say, like, well, even when I saw them, and if they came to Loughborough to do an interview with someone else, they just asked, and I was like, look, no, I'm just not doing it, and they were cool about it. It was never a problem, and no, it felt like it was just because everything was, like I said, for 5 years, it was talking about 2012. It was just like, look, just focus on running 400 meters to the best of your ability, and then the rest will handle itself.
Talking about running 400 meters, a question that I've started asking all the guests is because it relates to my project at university. So I'm sort of interviewing coaches at the professional level in football to see what they value psychologically. What are the most important psychological attributes that make a successful footballer? But I want to ask you, what are the most important psychological attributes or qualities you feel make a successful 400 meter sprinter?
It's probably the same as footballers, to be honest. I think it's like just perseverance. But the one thing I've always said, and I don't know if it's a mental attribute or whatever, but it's just honesty. If you don't train hard, you get found out in this sport. It's too competitive. It's too black and white. Like your times are there, and if you don't hit those times, and then if you've not done something right, or there's no real hiding from it. So for me, it's always just been about being honest with myself, honest with my coach, honest with the people who support me. Like there's no time. I think a lot of athletes do bullshit themselves, to be honest, and it's a weakness I think that you can eradicate quickly by literally just having honest conversations with yourself. You don't even need to talk to other people. And then once you get to that point where you can be honest and be critical of yourself and find what you need to do, then you can go and communicate with somebody else, and you can find a way to make it better. You know, I've had people in my career who I can sit down and they know I'm not bullshitting. They know, like, if I'm coming to them, we're going to have a clean, honest discussion about what needs to be done, and they'll help me find a solution. And I think that's key in every elite performer.
Go on.
Honesty is the first time it's come up throughout the whole episode, so it's really interesting. What are you going to say?
I tell you, someone who you have a very similar mindset to in terms of that honesty is Matt Fraser of CrossFit. I feel like he's someone who says he'll put that work in during that year, and you get found out at the CrossFit Games if you haven't put that work in, especially how unpredictable CrossFit is in terms of the different things that you do, and obviously how successful he is, and that you share the same mindset as why successful you were. Another thing that I wanted to ask was you always the anchor of the relay? Pretty much.
I did it as a junior, and then when I joined the seniors, they didn't really trust me at that level, which is fair. You don't put a 19-year-old taking the last penalty, and that was basically the same mentality. It was like, right, let's just put him on a safe leg, let him find his way. And I think my first year as a senior, they kind of put me on the second leg, and I did another one in 2000. Then 2005. I went to the World Champs. I was 18, and they put me on second leg, and I ran that twice. And then 2006, I went to the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, and I kind of messed up on last leg there. I got the baton in fourth, came back fourth, but a guy from behind me I went past one person, and then another guy came past me. I think I came into the home straight second and died, but I learned a hell of a lot that day. Like it taught me how to be like, I went to the World Juniors that year and ran a silly split, and then we came from 7th to 3rd, and then from then on, I think I had one more time where they put me on third leg. It was 2007, and I think I got the baton maybe. I was good at relays. I maybe got the baton maybe about, I think it was like third, and I came back first by about 10-15 meters. And the guy that he said, he didn't trust me to do last leg, coach. And the guy he said he did trust to do last leg came back 15 meters down in third place. And I was like, well, okay, from then on, I was always last leg. That was it. It was just back me to do it, and I'll do a job for you.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask you. So what do you think sort of makes a good anchor in terms of psychological attributes that you feel you need to sort of have that pressure of being the last person?
I said it tongue in cheek in an interview once before. It's like big dick energy.
Okay.
But in reality, it's just about the confidence in yourself to do the job. You've got your team are going to do the best they can to set you up. And I've always thrived in that position of I'm doing it for the boys. I'm doing it for my squad. I'm doing it because they put everything into me. And I always say to them before the race, like, whatever you do, just keep going. Just don't stop. Even if you're dying, just put it on the line, and I'll do everything I can to get the battle back for you. And that's when we've had the most success, is when we've had everybody putting 110% into it, all those cliches and whatever. But it's just about backing myself that I can go and do a job and come back with a medal.
It's really interesting you say that, because at the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned that rugby, like, you preferred kind of that individual sport as opposed to, team sports. And I feel like that event specifically is, in a sense, a kind of team event. 100%. So it's like, what's the difference for you between rugby and that? Because you're relying on your teammates to not F up as well. So
yeah, I think the transition from being like a spoiled young kid who couldn't handle losing to going, okay, look, we're in this together, we're going to fight together. I think that came from being in a training group. I loved being in a good group of people where you can work together and get the most out of each other. It was definitely something that I learned and developed. And I'd like to think I'm a fairly decent training partner, kind of helpful. I probably piss them off sometimes when I start talking mid-rep. But no, like that's something I had to learn and something I developed, and it's definitely something that probably is in all parts of my life now. Like it's I'll always give the energy to people who give me energy. Someone said to me, and it's a common proverb or whatever, it's about like what time. If time is the most important currency, you either invest it or you spend it or waste it or whatever. And I'll invest in my guys, and hopefully it comes back to me in medals.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's athletic maturity as well. You said you've gone from like being a boy to a man. I recently spoke about this. So I just recently took part in someone's disso, and we were talking about clutch moments and then also choke moments. I was talking about my choke moments, and they was often when I was young. And then like I feel like that athletic maturity is sort of maybe who I am today, and a bit more calmer under pressure and things like that. So yeah, no, I throughout what you said there, I feel like athletic maturity is definitely something that's helped you.
Have you ever worked with a sports psychologist during your career?
No, not properly. I 2012 there was we were offered a lot of support, and I found it was better if I could speak to ex-athletes. I just felt that I wanted to speak to people who'd been in those clutch moments. I wanted to feel that like they knew what I was talking about. In 2012 as well, we kind of had, I remember once we had Michael Johnson come and speak to us, and I was really excited about it, and it was the worst thing ever. Like, it was rubbish. Like, the guy, he was just a different person. He was not something that related to me at all. His experiences of the games were not going to be anything that we'd ever experienced. Like, he was basically anything he needed done was done for him. Like, he talked about going to the opening ceremony in Atlanta, and he literally said he sat in an air-conditioned room the whole way until he went out on the track, did his bit, and then he went back to that air-conditioned room and he was gone. Like, it wasn't like the normal athlete experience. But then I might speak to like Ewan Thomas or Roger Black, who are like greats of the game for British 400 meter running, and they just give me positive energy, and they kind of just gave me not coping strategies, more like mental prep strategies that I used later on in my career, just about visualization, and sometimes they just said twat it, simple stuff like that. They used the right words that kind of got to me, and I think that's the sports psych was something that maybe I should have used more, especially as I got older. I needed to find something that was going to push me a bit more, and as you have kids, you become quite soft, and maybe I needed something that was going to separate, compartmentalize like that home life and that training life.
You found that with the other Rooney as well. Obviously, he was so aggressive during his early career, and when he had kids and things like that, he sort of matured a little bit and calmed down, which I think affected his game a little bit. 100%. How much do you sort of value, obviously you didn't work with a sports psychologist, but how much do you value the mind in terms of succeeding in sport?
For me, it's huge. I think, like, as I said, in 2000 when I was 26, 27, when I joined Marina Riders Group, and you're surrounded by people who are used to serial winners. They were just people who won all the time. And that mentality they brought to training was something I had to learn. It was something I had to adapt to. Like I was kind of like, I liked to train hard. I enjoyed that. It was something I prided myself on. But it was this mentality that every day was competition day almost. Like not every day, but for the jumpers, every jump session was a massive and important session. And maybe I didn't understand that until I joined the group. Like every time I went to race pace, I was in race mode. And by the time I came to the season, I was always ready to race. It was never a problem. I didn't have to take 5 or 6 races to get into my groove. It was like, I'm ready to go. Yeah. So the mindset, like how you approach things with your mind is huge. And the mentality of winning it's a different thing. Not everybody can win. You can be the best athlete on the track. You can be the best like striker in the team, whatever, but it might not always click. And I think that's where the mind kind of takes over. I think when I won my first Europeans, I wasn't the best athlete on the track, but I was mentally the most prepared for it. And I kind of played some mind games beforehand, but it was definitely the power of the mind over the body, I think.
Yeah, we had that sort of in our last podcast about those mind games. What would you sort of do? Because we had Marilyn Okoro on our last podcast, and she was saying that she'd sort of fake it beforehand, that she was calm, and that sort of put her opponents off. What would you sort of do to?
I did it for a couple of weeks. So my rival at the Europeans was 2014. My rival would be Matt Hudson-Smith, who was very new to the event. He's a very super talented 400 meter runner. He's going to the Olympics in Tokyo, and he kind of came on the scene. And he kind of, I think I was meant to race him in Florida early in the season, and he pulled out like the day before or whatever because I think he was just nervous. Yeah. So I was kind of like, okay, I knew he was kind of weak. Like I was like, there's an opportunity here. And then he beat me in a race in Glasgow. We had a fantastic run, and he ran a big PB. I think he beat me. He came second in 44.9. I think I was fourth in like 45.1 or something. But it was like, cool, right? The focus is on you now. That everyone's gonna be talking about you. And I just kept stoking up. I was like, yeah, Matt's obviously the person to beat. He's in great shape. He's new to the team and stuff. But like that might help him. And I just kind of, everything was about Matt. It was about Matt's going to do so well. I was super like positive about him, and I was like, right, when it came to the race, I remember sitting next to him on the bus, and I was singing. I can't remember what I was singing, but I was just singing away, having the time of my life. Like, and he was sitting there looking at me, going, "What the f is going on here? Like, this guy is mad." And that was it. I was in his head. I think, it took a lot of the pressure off myself, and it kind of. Just being like, I was quite relaxed as well, to be fair. I'd found my rhythm by then. I was in a really good zone. It was my third championships of the summer. I'd done the British champs, the Commonwealths, and then I was at the Europeans. So I knew what I was doing by then. And I really was ready to run fast. So it does help when you are in that shape.
Love that shithousery on the bus. But, thanks for shedding light on kind of like these aspects of your career, but we're really interested in kind of like diving in your current projects, like what you're doing now. So we saw that you're currently working with Loughborough College. So tell us more about what's that about? So
I actually studied briefly at Loughborough College when I first moved to Loughborough, and I never finished I was doing a foundation degree in sports science management. It didn't interest me at the time. I think they were teaching us how to trying to train us up to be leisure centre managers, and it wasn't something I was ever interested in. Yeah. But I realised later on, like I think it was in 2015, I was like, you know what? If you really want to go into sports, not sports. What's the correct term? It's like sports politics, basically, like administration and stuff. Then you kind of need a degree. So I was like, right. I went to the college. It's like, right. Is it possible to go get this foundation degree? And I knew 2 of the people who are working on the course now, and I had a good relationship with them. And they basically just said to me, well, what do you want it for? I said, I need a job. I need to get a job later on in life. And they're like, well, how about we give you a job instead? So they gave me a job as part of the youth talent program, which is the base level of British athletics is support network, and basically work with guys who are doing their A-levels and BTEC or level 1 to 3. Well, it's level 3 courses, I think. We do have 1 or 2 kids with learning difficulties, but it was basically they do a course called a Diploma in Sport and Excellence, and I was an assessor. I was basically there to make sure they did their work, do some phone calls, and that role has developed. Now you do professional discussions and progress reviews, so you catch up with them regularly. You kind of make sure that they're training and doing all that, like the stuff, but also make sure they're doing well at school. Because like obviously a lot of these guys want to go to university. As part of the diploma, they get points towards it's not UCAS. Is it UCAS still?
Yeah, I think
yeah,
so.
UCAS, yeah. So you get like, I think it's 60 points or something. It's quite a lot, like as far as I'm aware. So it does mean a lot, but Loughborough doesn't accept it. Loughborough University, Oxford, Cambridge, they don't accept it, which is a bit annoying. Anyway, but so that I've been doing that role for about 3 years, and Loughborough College decided they wanted to open up an athletics academy. So I put myself forward for a coordinator role, and they gave it to me on the spot. It was kind of like, they felt that my experience would be something that would be massive to young athletes coming through. I think having done the work on the YTP, I was already doing a similar role, but this would be more hands-on. This would be working directly with a group of maybe, I think it was like, we were aiming for like 12 athletes, making sure that I'm coordinating their day-to-day like life, like make sure they go to their lectures, make sure they go to training, make sure they're clean, make sure they're, not a parenting role, because I really want to separate that, like if they've moved to Loughborough, most of the kids at the moment will be local, within like Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire, I think as far as they're coming from, but they'll be commuting in and out every day. But my job was just basically making sure that they're completing their work and training and being respectful people, and trying to give them as much advice along the way. So we'll be doing stuff on working on lifestyle, we'll be working on career goals, we'll be working on like education through nutrition, sports psychology. So trying to just give them a rounded kind of approach to, it doesn't matter about being an athlete, it's about being a coachable person.
Yeah.
So that they can go in to do anything they want and be like good learners, good listeners, and adapt to whatever they're taught, rather than, I think a lot of the athletes now that you meet, and I think you guys must see it in all walks of life, that there's quite an entitled group of people coming through now who basically feel like they're owed everything, and that's something I've really hated to see. And I think hopefully with the college I'll be able to make a group of talented, coachable people, rounded people.
I feel like Loughborough College I went to Loughborough College when I did the level 3 sports science there. And no, I think Loughborough College is definitely a great place to go and study and learn your trade, because I don't know whether he still works there, Danny Lee.
Yes, Danny, my boss.
Oh man, that guy. I haven't spoke to him since I left Loughborough College, but he's the whole reason why I'm doing what I am today. So if you speak to him, let him know, because
I will do.
Yeah, he shaped everything from that. The way he taught that psychology module on that sports science thing was unbelievable.
He's a great lad. Other than being a Leeds fan, he's a great lad.
I saw that you're a Crystal Palace fan.
Yeah, I'm a victim of where I'm from. My dad's not really into football, and my mum loves sport, but she doesn't have a team. And then it was like, well, you're from Croydon, so you support your team that you can walk to. I'm just happy with a Premier League team, to be honest.
What do you think to Vieira? What do you think to that appointment?
I'm a huge fan of Vieira as a player. Like, obviously grew up in the era when the Invincibles and Arsenal were the Barcelona of their generation. They were amazing to watch. And I just hope he can bring that kind of leadership quality to the pitch. I think, like, as a manager, I'm curious. I think his record's not great to me. He's not good enough. Like, he's not a Roy Hodgson or something like that.
Yeah.
But if we want to move up, then maybe that's who we need. We tried it with Frank de Boer and it was terrible. So we're once scarred, No,
it'll be interesting to see. As a Leicester, I'm not a Leicester fan, I'm a Man U fan, but obviously growing up in Leicester, all the Leicester fans want Zaha, but his price is just so expensive to get him. I don't think a club will go for him. So you've got him in the bag.
It's that 25% that we have to pay to Man United that ruined it. It's kind of like, I think we'd have probably taken like 60, 70 million a couple of years ago, which is probably what he was worth. I don't think he's worth that now, but for us to sell him now, it's probably is still 60 million. And it's kind of like, it's not really, who can afford that? And his wages aren't low. They're not. Yeah. He's over 100 grand. So it has to be a big team. And I think he turned his nose up at Leicester, which I was a bit like, I I know he wants like a big top 4 team, but I'm like, well, they did win the league fairly recently, and they are a much better team than Palace. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, I chat to Ian String quite a bit, and he does like the Leicester commentary and stuff like that. And it's like every time it's Leicester Palace, he's always like trying to goad me into something. I was like, I think you're going to batter us.
Yeah, always good to go into that mindset, and then if you win, it's a bonus.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that Eze is quality as well.
We've got loads of talent, I think, and we're buying well at the moment. We're buying young, talented players from around the area as well. So people who know London know it's a working man's club. You know, it's not like a super conglomerate thing or whatever. It's just literally local team, local stadium, and people who can understand those fans. It's cheap season ticket holders, and it's not like it's not part of the fans. Yeah, it's not the football tourism thing that you get at Chelsea or Arsenal. And I remember Mourinho always going on about like this is what he wanted from his supporters. He wanted the Palace kind of the noise, but if you charge whatever Chelsea do charge for a season ticket compared to Palace, it's kind of like you're going to get that rowdy fan coming to the Palace game.
Yeah.
What's the Palace stadium called again?
Sellers Park.
Sellers Park. Yeah, it's the noise. Like when I watch during the weekends, like that's a tough place to go to. I swear.
I'll tell you a story about Crystal Palace.
Go on.
Me and my friends, we did this thing called Gillette Roulette. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I have not.
But we basically, if it's someone's birthday, we'll occasionally do this. So 3 o'clock kickoffs, we'll go down to the pub, and the first team that scores will go to that place. And Crystal Palace scored first. We went down to Crystal Palace. There's not many good bars in and around the stadium.
No, it's a bit of a rough area,
Yeah, very rough. We realised that when we got there. But we ended up going into, I think it was Shoreditch.
Back into London.
Yeah. So, but no, that's our story of Palace.
That's where I grew up, like Thornton Heath. Like that's a very vibrant, multicultural area, but like it can be quite a dangerous place to be. But I love it. Like I don't think I could live there anymore just because it's too noisy. Yeah. But compared to Loughborough, it's like peaceful and quiet.
Loughborough.
Do you know what I mean? It's a nice part of the world, and I've got lots of friends and family still down there, but it's a different way of life. With kids now, I think like I said earlier, I kind of want them to be in the nice, as sheltered as possible. But they get down there and they get to see a bit of dose of reality, and it's a different world.
We also saw that you had a podcast, like you were a co-host on the podcast. Yeah. So what are your kind of aims and ambitions with this podcast?
At the time, myself and Dan Greaves, Discus Dan, he's going to his 6th Paralympic Games. He's just been selected, which is fantastic. He is a Loughborough graduate. I think he's Dr. Dan Greaves and whatever. He's VIP at Loughborough. Loughborough Uni. So we did it. It was basically just messing about, really, like trying to get more. I think at the time there wasn't that podcasts weren't as popular, and they were. It was a hugely growing market. We just basically wanted to interview people who probably didn't get the same coverage as maybe other people. I think British athletics in the past have been terrible at. They focus on maybe 3 or 4 athletes, right? So you might have Dina Asher Smith, Katrina Johnson-Thompson, Alan Jamili, and then maybe one other, Mo Farah.
Yeah.
Never really talked about anybody else. So you have Jess Ennis, Greg Woodford. So there's like 5 or 6 athletes there. But other than that, like it was like, well, there's a team of 70 people, you know? Like, why are you only talking about these? And then you don't even look at the Paralympics. You got like Johnny Peacock, and that's it. And I was like, there's some huge personalities in the sport. There's people that come from such diverse backgrounds, that people come from all over the world and have stories to tell. So that's basically what we did it for. There wasn't like an aim. It was more just about getting people's personalities out there. And along the way, like you find like nuggets of information. And we've got a couple that we've done in January, which between myself and Dan, we just haven't had the time. Well, I say we haven't had the time. We probably have had the time, but neither of us have produced them. We've got one with a fantastic, really, really good one with Joel Fearon, who's a British 100-meter runner. He's run sub 10, and he does the bobsled, and he's an Olympic medalist in the bobsled. And his mindset, like he's someone that Like I was sitting there just like this close to the camera, like just taking on everything he was saying. It was amazing.
What was his name again?
Joel Fearon. I would highly recommend getting him on. His
talk about the bobsled team. Yeah, Ryan Letts. He went to Loughborough College. He was there when I was there.
Oh, no way.
He was a couple of years above me. He's someone I want to message to try and get on the podcast. Ryan Letts. His mindset's good as well.
I think you have to be kind of mad to go into bobsled. I think you have to kind of have a couple of screws loose. But
yeah, scary, man.
It's when you talk to Joel, it's just about. There's a reason behind everything. There's a reason why he's putting himself in danger. It's not for him. It's for his family. It's for to put food on the table, kind of thing. And once you hear those stories, it makes you realize how important what we do as sports people, like for the people around us. Not so much like for ourselves now. Like he's got like four kids, I think. He's a glutton for punishment. But I did enjoy that. I've really enjoyed the podcast. Whether we keep doing it, I don't know. I think. We'll see how it goes with these jobs. When you're a full-time athlete, life's easy. You literally go eat, sleep, train, repeat, and you've got all the time in the world to do whatever you want. And then you have kids, and then that's ruined. And then you try and do a podcast and a job as well, and it's like, it's too many things. So.
To be honest, I'm sort of the same, but the podcast is the only thing I look forward to. Everything else is like manual labour, and then I have to do my disso, reading. But this is like where I come on and just chat. It's class.
It's good, and I think if you enjoy doing them and enjoy listening to them, they are quite cathartic. And I think in this world now, where obviously lockdown happened, and realise how lonely people are, like podcasts kind of offer a familiarity. Someone like, I feel like I'm best mates with Joe Rogan. I've never met the guy, you know what I mean? Just because I listen to so many of his podcasts, and I feel like it kind of gives you that companionship, and you forget how much people need it.
100%. I see a lot of podcasts release them around Christmas, like on Christmas Day they'll release a Christmas special, because some people don't have that family or friends to share that with on Christmas Day. So I think that's 100% a great point. I feel like I was best mates with Peter Crouch when his podcast was popping.
Brilliant. Chris Stark and all those guys. I was like, I knew what's his name? Who's the third guy from Sheffield?
Stark and
how can I forget his name? He used to come to Loughborough all the time. BBC.
Chris Stark and.
Where's my podcast?
I have no idea.
Oh my god, it's on the tip of my tongue.
He's a lovely bloke, and he with my wife, he was like writing for the BBC at the time, so he came and watched her compete like loads because he wanted to learn about pole vault. Probably because he wanted to look at my wife, but all right, here we go. Found the podcast. Let's get the information on it. Go to show. It's with Tom Fordyce.
That's the one. How can you forget Fordyce? What a name!
he's so knowledgeable, and he knows this. He's a great journalist. So, and Crouch is just fantastic. I've never met Crouch. I've always wanted to meet him. I've always felt like, like you have your dinner table, who would you go for? I've got like 3 or 4 different dinner tables, and he kind of is always around there, He's
a legend. But yeah, in terms of all the questions we had for you, they were all the questions. It's been more like a very chat. But we always ask our audience and viewers on all different social media if they've got any questions for you. So we'll reel them off now. We've got the best for you. So the first one is, what are your hobbies outside of athletics?
It used to be watching movies and playing PlayStation, and now it's basically just being around my kids and trying to help and teach them things.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
What did you play on the PlayStation?
COD.
Yes.
COD, okay. Yeah, let's go trio. Let's go.
Oh, I haven't got a PlayStation anymore. Basically, because when I got kids, I was like, when I bought them from the shop. When I was younger, I used to sit and play COD. I'd come home from training, I'd have my protein, I'd literally sit and play for 6 hours, and then I'd be like, right, I have my dinner, and it would be a rubbish dinner, and I'd go to bed after, like, my mind was fried from playing all day. So I was like, that's something I can't afford to do now anyway. Like, so just I got rid of my PlayStation.
I was the same.
I miss it every day.
Start of lockdown. We just finished our undergrad. I mean, I had no responsibility because work was cancelled, and it was like I was just grinding COD every day.
What a time to be alive!
It was.
That's amazing. So the second question was, how do you maintain your body over a long period of time so that it keeps performing well?
How do I put? I train pretty hard. It's 6 days a week. Like, I think I've always tried to out train other people, and sometimes I've broken myself in the process. And I think it's just being responsible. Like, it's understanding that I can't, even at a young age, I couldn't go out drinking. I couldn't go out feasting on cake all the time. And when I did, I got injured. It was pretty simple. And so it's just knowing that you can't do that all the time, and knowing that trusting yourself to make the right decisions. I think it's very easy to get led down. And during lockdown, I really enjoyed myself. I went to town. I was like, right, once the Olympics was, when it was postponed, once I knew I had another year of funding, I was like, right, I'm having my lad's holiday at home with my family, barbecuing every day. I've never spent so much on alcohol in my whole life, and it was just like I was just enjoying myself. And then I realized like I can't do this anymore because my body was done. I got to like September, and I was like, I was excited to go to training, but I needed my body to catch up, and it took a while.
You speak about that sacrifice. You see in the England camp, people like Declan Rice and Sancho coming out saying they've never had a beer before, and then Chilwell's never had a Chinese. I mean, what kind of life is that?
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? But I think like at that level, like the respect I have for football is that it is truly a global sport. I think people talk about like it's so hard to do it, be an athlete or cricketer or whatever, but nothing's got like football. There's nothing at that level. Like every young boy in the world who can kick a ball wants to be a footballer.
Yeah. 100%.
So it is the top 0.0 whatever percent, and if that means you have to be that diligent and that prepared, like obviously at that level you can have a chef. You pay for a chef, wouldn't you? Every day. And you can eat really
they've
well.
got everything from 100%.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is, I think this person's not had a great experience of 400 meters. He said, why would you pick a sport that really hurts? 400 meters is basically a prolonged sprint.
He's probably he or she's probably had a very bad experience there. It does hurt when it doesn't go well. I tell you what, pretty much every race this year has hurt. But when it goes well, it's easy. It really is. It's kind of like you can run. I think when I ran, like first time I ran 44 seconds, I was literally striding down in Monaco. When I won in Monaco, I literally looked across at the clock at 100 meters to go, and I was like, oh, that's quite good. Yeah, okay, cool. And I just kept running down the straight, and I ran like a PB 44.7. I beat some really good athletes, and I was like, oh. And when it goes well, the sport is very easy because you've done all the hard work beforehand. The 400s, like when you train properly, the hardest bit is the training, and the easiest part's the racing. And to be honest, actually, I think the 800 is a harder event. That's probably why I didn't do that.
Oh, really?
Oh, mate, that hurts. That's a prolonged sprint. Those guys at the top level, they go through and like, so I flat out, I've run 44.45, so 44 seconds for 400. They go through in like 48.49 and carry on going. It's unreal. Like at the top level, David Rudisha, who won the London 2012 games and ran a world record in the final. When you break up his splits, it's like 24 seconds, 25 seconds, 25, 26. It's like some people can't run 25 seconds. You know what I mean? Like
I think the splits that you're doing, like 11 seconds per 100 meters, is like
like so we go like 10-7. I think when I ran PB, it was 10-9. Ran the first bend. I ran 21.4 at 200, 32.4 at 300, and then 44.4 at 400. So it's crazy, like when you do think about it, but then you go to the next level again where guys are trying to run sub 43 seconds now, and it's like
I find it crazy. Mo Farah, and like when he finished his event and they track his like last 100 meters, and it's like, what? How is he doing that?
It's incredible. But then you see I think you do see it in other sports where guys are literally going, they've played a whole game of rugby in the 79th minute and they're literally still sprinting down the pitch, and everybody's around them cramping up and they're still going. There's superhumans out there, and I think in rugby where you are, in boxing when you're getting punched in the face and in the last couple of rounds you're still going, that physical and mental mindset is incredible.
Especially after you've been rocked, like Tyson Fury, how he come back after Deontay Wilder, like madness. 12th round.
Yeah, I run around in a circle, mate. Like compared to these guys who are getting punched in the face and holding their arms up for like 3-minute rounds, 2-minute rounds, whatever, 3-minute rounds. Yeah. It's kind of even just when you start doing it yourself and trying to hold your arms up for 3 minutes, it's actually quite hard.
It burns. Yeah.
John's been doing boxing in Spain recently, so we'll hope to see him on the scene soon.
It's so much harder than you think it is. Like
100%.
The whole technique and stuff. Like
I took up a more easier sport. I've took up golf, so it's not easier. I'm just there for leisure now. Yeah.
But the fourth question was, how do you mentally prepare before a competition?
I suppose it's the mental preparation, like I said earlier, is probably done way beforehand. It's you kind of done all the training, all the hard work, so you just go into the competition. You have to. What I've done later on in my career is a lot more visualization. It helps if I know the track. If I've been there before, I can go back through my memory banks and remember parts of the bend. I basically work out every part of the track where I need to be at certain points. And when I run well, those things just happen. They just click, and I follow the exact the map that I've done beforehand. I follow it through. But there's simple things that I do before a race, like my bag is packed the night before. I've got everything I need before I'd even gone to the competition. It's all prepared, and I often overpack. But it's like having that bag prepped, making sure I'm clean when I get to the track. Like it's something that I'll always shower before I leave for the stadium, just because I'm like, it's treating it with respect in a way, if you know what I mean. I feel like if I come in there carrying, if I'm slightly dirty or whatever, or sweaty or whatever, it's like, no, you have to come in fresh. Okay. Those are probably the three things I've done the most, like visualized, prepared, and clean.
That cleans come on quite a bit. It's something that you quite value.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to stink, innit? But like I think it's yourself, innit? It's just like you get out of the shower, you're fresh, you're ready to go. So that's like
look good, feel good. Yeah.
Exactly, that's it. That's the words.
But yeah, they're all the questions we had for you, all the questions our audience had for you. Thanks so much for coming on. It's been a great chat. I've really enjoyed it.
Gents, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, we normally give this time, if you've got anything to sort of shout out, feel free to shout it out now.
I suppose I'm on every social media thing except from TikTok at Martyn Rooney. I feel like I'm a bit old for TikTok, so
yeah, we're on TikTok as well. It's a struggle, to be fair.
It just feels like more work. I'm like, and to be honest, social media is work. I don't enjoy it as much as I used to. I do think it's more of a job than anything, and hopefully now I don't have to do as much of it. And then obviously, if you're a young athlete and you're looking to study, do your A levels, BTEC, level 1 to 3 courses. So maybe people who have maybe not thought that education is for them, they can come and do like a level 1 course, level 2 course at Loughborough College, and you can find all the information through Google, Loughborough College.
Yeah, Loughborough College.
Simple.
No, definitely. I think that Loughborough College, I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something in sport, and then I went and done that sports science, and then picked my favourite module out of the lot, and it was psychology, and now I'm here. So, yeah.
It's got a prime example, everyone. Yeah, Oliver Wright.
But yeah, if you could please share this with your friends or someone you feel will benefit from it. Most importantly, like, subscribe, comment down below any questions you had or any guests you want us to get on in the future. But other than that, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.